Today, motorsport manufacturers often rely on their motorsport heritage to promote their cars, but very few have a track record in endurance racing quite like Bentley.
And this is the story of the man who really put Bentley on the map, the man who first took them endurance racing at Le Mans, the extraordinary John Duff.
This is the first factory-entered Bentley to compete at Le Mans, driven by John Duff and Frank Clement in 1925. Back then the races weren't dissimilar to the road cars, and this one is a Van den Plough-bodied 4-seater 3-litre model with a lower aerodynamic windscreen and enlarged 25-litre fuel tank. It had an uprated engine and stiffened suspension too, and it weighed around 1800 kilos. It was incredibly robust, a prerequisite for endurance racing. A jealous Ettore Bugatti called it the fastest lorry in the world, but it had to be because the racing was brutal. 49 cars started that 1925 race and just 16 cars finished. This one ran out of fuel.
But Bentley's first success at Le Mans wasn't done with official factory help. In fact, it was a privateer called John Duff that entered and won back in 1923 in a race that at the time W.O. Bentley was rather sniffy about entering. So before we get on to this beautiful brutish Continental V8S that we're driving, perhaps we should have a bit of a chat about the Bentley Boys themselves. Who were they?
Well, they were Europe's wealthiest gentleman drivers. They were chaps that were equally famous for their champagne consumption and womanising as they were for their win-at-all-costs attitude on track. There was a number of really larger-than-life characters that were involved in WO's team in the Roaring Twenties. Perhaps some of the most famous ones were Captain Wolf Bonato. Now, he loved his Bentley so much that he ended up buying the company, but there was also Sir Tim Birkin. He was a World War I fighter ace. There was Dr. Dudley Bengerfield, who was a Harley Street surgeon. And there was the dashing Baron de Erlinger, whose family had made a fortune in banking, but when you look him up on Wikipedia, his profession is listed as international playboy. They were all larger-than-life characters and included celebrated adventurers, sportsmen, journalists. There was a pearl fishing magnate, mining ability, as well as professional race engineers and drivers. Many Bentley boys even owned swanky flats in the same part of London's Grosvenor Square, which was soon known to every bobby and A-list partygoer as Bentley Corner, due to the fabulous cars parked outside. It has been said that it was the horrors of the First World War, in which most of these gentlemen served, that actually gave these races such a zest for life, but also a devil-may-care attitude to the dangers of motor racing.
The very first of the Bentley Boys was Captain John Duff, and what a character he was. He was born in 1895 to Canadian parents in China, grew up in a mountaintop hotel in China, and when the First World War broke out, aged just 19, he caught a train from China through Russia, through war-torn Europe to sign up to fight with the Allies. So enthusiastic was he to fight that he charged on ahead of his own troops and was hit by friendly fire. But in typical Bentley boy fashion, it turned out quite nicely for him because he ended up marrying his nurse. After the war, he opened a Bentley dealership and spotted an interesting new race called the 24 Hour of Le Mans. He decided to enter in his own car with no factory help. He led for the vast majority of the race, but actually finished fourth due to a technicality. Now, what was really interesting here is that W.O. Bentley himself was quite sniffy about this race, but he decided at the last moment to go along and spectate. And very glad he was too that he did, because of course Bentley's performance, driven by Captain John Duff, was spectacular. And he vowed there and then to go back the following year and give it his utmost support.
And their remarkable run at Le Mans kicked off in 1924 when they did extremely well, taking home the trophy, actually beating the two French favourites in a Lorraine Dietrich across the line after 120 laps. Now, those people that know a bit about Le Mans will think 120 laps, it doesn't sound very impressive, considering that the winning Porsche last year did 395. But you've got to remember, Duff and Clement's car actually only packed 70 bhp. Bentley went on to dominate the race for the next 4 years until, inevitably, the money ran out and Bentley withdrew from all forms of motorsport in 1931.
Back to John Duff though, his post-Le Mans career was no less colourful. He broke both of his ankles when he went over the banking, I think at Brooklands, and his doctor advised he take up some form of sport to help him recuperate. So he took up fencing, then went to Hollywood and became a stuntman. He first started doing sword fighting tricks and then became an all-round stuntman. He eventually met his end in 1962, I think it was, in Epping Forest in a horse riding accident after having been a champion show jumper too. What a full life he led, and what a character. And of course, all of these successes in the 1920s gave W.O. Bentley exactly what he wanted. Lots of publicity. In fact, he once said something like, "I'll be perfectly happy for my cars to circulate Le Mans in glorious solitude as long as I got the front page of the Daily Mail on a Monday morning." So what do you think the Bentley boys would have made of this Continental V8S?
It's a fabulous car, isn't it? I mean, it's got plenty of power. It's got how many times more power than what they had?
This thing though is pretty hefty. What is it, 2.2 tons?
2.3. So what do you make of this Bentley Continental GT V8S?
Well, it's a fantastic machine, isn't it? It does remind me a little bit of Dolly Parton. If you just excuse me while I go off on a bit of a tangent now, because
Okay, go on then.
the Continental, like Dolly Parton, the famous country and western singer, has rather an old chassis that's been kept fresh with endless facelifts, and every time people look at it and expect a little bit more, they respond by giving it a bit more, oomph. But Dolly Parton did say it cost a lot of money to look this cheap, and this does not look cheap.
No, I was going to say it's a little bit unkind, because this is one of the finest finished off cabins of all the things we've blagged in recent years.
It's a big car though, isn't it? It's a strange car from many angles. You don't really grasp how big and how wide it is. Park it up, you're going to struggle to open the doors in most places in Europe anyway. But we do love it, and if for nothing else, we love it for that sound. May I stand on that?
The details are lovely. See that mesh grille? That was originally Duff's idea and lives on in hot Bentleys today. The wings on the Bentley B have a different amount of feathers, originally done to deter forgeries, and check the linen stitched quilted leather and carbon fibre trim. It's the kind of car with endless little details, cosmetic and performance, which really grabs your attention.
Well, we wouldn't see a racing Bentley take the coveted title at Le Mans for another 73 years until Guy Smith and Mark Blundell took their LMP cars to that famous 1-2 victory in 2003. And interestingly, like those Le Mans prototypes cars, this also has an Audi developed V8. It's the same one as you'll find in the S8 Super Saloon. But this is the V8S, so this has 521 brake horsepower, 21 more than the standard V8, and 502 pound-foot of torque. Now this thing can sail on to 192 miles per hour, and it'll sprint to 60 in about 4.3 seconds, which is pretty impressive when you consider that this thing weighs 2.3 tons.
But you know what? Nobody wants to hear stats, and certainly nobody wants to hear our bloody voices. I think what they want to hear is some engine note. Let's go and find a tunnel.
In 2016, the Bentley Continental GT3 is set to go racing at the grueling 24 hours of Nürburgring and the Bathurst 12 hours. But today we're here to see the modern day Bentley boys and Bells racing in the Blancpain GT Endurance Series here at Silverstone. The GT3 silhouette is unmistakably Continental, but the doors, boot lid and bonnet are now handcrafted in carbon fibre. More than 1,000 kilograms of excess luxuries have been stripped from the GT3. Gone is the leather trim, the double glazing, the plush carpets, miles of wiring and over 50 ECUs in the relentless pursuit of speed. Bentley's technical partners at M Sport Limited have also switched out the 8-speed ZF Auto for a 6-speed sequential box. They've added 4-way adjustable dampers and it has competition brakes the size of manhole covers.
John Duff had to fix his own car to win at Le Mans, but today's Bentley boys and Bells have quite a team. Times may have changed, but Bentley is still making history racing today.